when I called you just a few months ago and said to you that you have been selected as an honoree of our non-event honorary event here, kind of thing, what went through your head? Because the reason I'm asking is because I sometimes find that you are very humble and also a little bit private.
Yes, I was surprised. I did not expect to be chosen for this sort of thing. So yeah, it kind of caught me by surprise.
Does that, I know it maybe sounds like a crazy question, but in your professional work, does that have any influence of being recognized? I mean, does it mean anything to you from, let's say, of course, it's not always nice to be recognized for your work, but is it something where you feel that, okay, that is not our award as such, but in general being appreciated for your work?
I think it's always nice to be noticed. Yeah, yeah. Oh, I think it's nice to be noticed, but I'll see how much recognition it brings.
As I said to you many times, I think that I find you as probably the best journalist in the printing industry because I think that you have an unbiased approach. You have a journalistic integrity. You work on that. Is that something that you have always had, or is it something that you developed over time?
No, that's what I was trained to do. I've got a postgrad in newspaper journalism, so I'm just doing exactly what I was trained to do, and which almost all British journalists of my generation were trained to do.
And if you think of your work and how you ended up, we have been talking earlier about how you ended up in this part of the, let's say, the industry kind of thing, right? But I mean, you stick to it, and you have also, seems to me like that you got that passion for the technology. You got the passion for understanding how technology is supporting business, right?
Yes, and if you're interested in journalism, and you are interested in publishing, then learning how it is printed is obviously very important. And that was really what attracted me to it in the first place. But as you said, I became interested in the technology. It covers lots of different bases. It's quite a mechanical process, but at the same time, it's a very high-tech and electronic process. So there's lots of different things in it going on.
And when you look at, because you mentioned yourself that is what journalists of your generation are supposed to do. I mean, journalism in that perspective has changed a lot. First and foremost, I mean, it might even have been fast when you were young and before the internet, but now it's even crazier, right? In the sense of speed and the sense of how you check your sources and all these kind of things, that is challenging a lot of people, right?
The speed of publishing is definitely quicker. I mean, I worked on a monthly magazine with weeks to put things together. Now everything's very fast. But in a way, the speed doesn't bother me because it's more important to be more in depth, I think. What is more of a challenge, really, is the elastic nature of time, because before I only had to think about what time I was publishing in the UK. But now I have to think about what time people are reading it in the US, in Japan, wherever. So that's really more of a challenge.
And how do you cope with it?
Well,
I mean, you can only publish at one time, right?
yes, exactly. I try to pick time which will work for the majority of the audience. Sometimes sometimes better than others.
And if you look at the audience, I mean, because today we can all of us use our Google Analytics and get an idea, but who is the main audience for Niss & Cleary?
Oh, it's all over the world. The main audience at the moment is probably ink and printhead manufacturers, a lot of printers as well, though. And I don't ever worry about analytics. I never look at those sort of numbers. I always judge it on the feedback from users directly.
You just moved, right?
Yes.
So who is Niss & Cleary?
What you see is what you get.
No, a little bit more. I mean, because are you a person that cooks at home, or you?
Oh yeah.
Okay. And
I like cooking.
Yeah. And what kind of food do you like?
Oh, all sorts. I've a lot of Italian pasta and that sort of thing. I like Chinese and Japanese. I'm not very good at cooking those, but I'll give most things a go.
Music?
Music, yep, very big fan of music. Yeah.
And what kind of music is that?
I listen to classical, to jazz, rock, punk, everything. Yeah. I was a music journalist before. Even before I was a print journalist.
Okay, so there's a diverse collection. Are you still like a person that collects on vinyl or
No, not these days.
streaming?
No, not streaming either. I collect or I buy CDs.
Is that like an important? I mean, are you the? I mean, should I imagine you sitting and writing and having a glass of whiskey on your side, and if you smoke a big cigar and some jazz, groovy jazz music in the background, or?
Oh, I pick music to work to, yes, based on the rhythm of what I want to write.
So when you work as a journalist, obviously you have your own channels, you have your own media, and you also work with other media as a freelancer. What are the biggest challenges of the, let's say, the work and the lifestyle that you have chosen?
Well, it's not well paid, so everything is done on a shoestring, and that's probably the most challenging.
And is that like, is it because there's simply not enough money in the industry, or is it because there's a competition that just doesn't allow to pay more, you think?
No, it's because I chose to pay my own way and not take money from sponsors and advertisers and the people I'm writing about.
And that, of course, also gives you the freedom to write whatever you want, right?
Exactly, which is more valuable to me.
Not only to you, but also to your audience, I guess. I mean, I guess that is that's a decision you took, right?
Yes, you can't do it both ways. You can either work in marketing or work in journalism. There's not very much in between.
And if you look at let's say the way that journalism around this industry is evolving, do you think it becomes easier to be that independent voice, or do you think it becomes more difficult?
Oh no, it's easier in the sense that there's less competition.
True.
In terms of getting access to people, that's not really ever been a problem. Most of the people that I'm trying to interview are also reading the website. They appreciate that I have no particular agenda. I'm not working for any one company. It's quite straightforward.
When I met you, I think the first time I just called you, basically, that was because we were writing a story that I think that both of us were quite fascinated about. That was like the Marco Corvi story from Switzerland.
Yes.
How did that story influence you and your business?
It did make me aware of the limitations of what I can do, because my style is very much based upon interviewing people. It's very difficult to get hold of Marco Corvi. I think you were better placed to do that. You had more resources and could follow it up better than I did. So I became very aware that there's some limitation in how I'm working.
I actually think that I was more stupid because I took more chances.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, no, because I'm serious here, because that is also the learning. The reason I'm asking is because you're right that he was not easy to get hold on. But secondly, it was also a tremendously important story because it was influenced by really, really big money in the industry, right? And it was a part of something that is still like, what was the basic idea about this, right? As very shortly, it's like, what is it today? It's Wednesday today. I think it was Monday or Friday last week. I got new information about Marco Corvi's doing in India, right? So people still send me information, and I'm just like, wow, that is a guy that still splits the waters, and apparently the way that he's trying to do business is influencing people. I mean, I say to people that you should do business with anybody you want to do business with, but you should be cautious.
Yes.
Would that be the same kind of advice you would give, or?
Yeah, I think that's true of any business. You have to do some due diligence of who you're working with. But in terms of a journalistic approach to that, it's standard journalism. You always follow the money, work out who's benefiting from these things.
So the Marco Corvi story, that changed anything in your perspective? Because I mean, at least for me, it's not a story that just comes every day, right?
No, I wouldn't expect it to. I mean, it was unusual. Most of the stories are quite technical. It was unusual to come across something that was, just trying to think about how to phrase this without causing any of us any legal difficulties, but pretty close to fraud. Yeah. And some companies involved should have been a lot more careful.
And I mean, because what I like about the story was also the fact that working together. We worked a little bit with Christoph from Luzerner Zeitung. You and I, we spoke quite a lot about the story, and I think that kind of collaboration. You say that you're a little bit surprised because most of the time you always work by yourself, right?
Yes, well, mostly I'm competing against other journalists, so it was quite interesting to collaborate with people. And I reached out to other journalists who, not from the printing industry, but more from mainstream media for guidance on how to do this sort of thing. So, yeah, it was an interesting process.
We touched a little bit upon music and food and writing and things like that. I mean, are you a person that always work?
Pretty much, yeah. I enjoy working. You know, I mean, when I have time off, I always reach for a phone and start writing things. So yes, yeah.
So
but I also enjoy mixing business and pleasure. I like to travel for trade shows and talk to people, but I also like to take some time off and to look at the cities I'm traveling to.
Listen, Cleary version 2.0, if such exists, what would that be? Because I mean, we're moving into, as you say, that it's the mechanical process of seeing something that's been written and then being printed is one thing, but the version 2.0 is that like a media or an outlet or a person or an avatar or anything that is changing the narrative a little bit?
No, I don't think anything has changed very much. People still need to have good in-depth information. I don't think that's going to change or go away. Some of the publishing methods might change. You know, everything's online now, and before it was on print. And nowadays I write for people to read on a phone, whereas before I would have expected them to read on a computer. But fundamentally, people still need to have good information.
And what, I mean, with that said, what is it? Because I mean, the reason I'm also curious about it is because we often in English, we have that open question. If you have like a fabulous, let's say 200 pages magazine, right? How many actually reads it? And that is like when you say that you write for people to basically learn and you know, get that background that they need for, are you sometimes wondering how many actually reads it or?
Yes, I see some, if you see page open figures and so on, but I don't really pay too much attention. Mostly I judge based on the feedback I get directly from people. And sometimes that's surprising. Stories that I spend a lot of time working on sometimes don't really have much impact. Other stories I didn't spend much time on, people noticed. So it's kind of interesting to see what things are interesting to people.
And what, do you have like a favorite story of yourself?
I liked working on the Lander stories from last year. That was quite interesting. I'm still hoping to follow that up this year.
So that is again a combination of that. What started as a technology story became also like a business story, right?
Yes. Yeah, you always have to look at where the money comes from. The technology is interesting, but someone has to pay for it, to develop it and to buy it. You always have to think, where is the money coming from for this?
Now we're here at the non-event. You know most of the people here, right?
Yes.
So I'm not looking for an endorsement or anything like that, but I'm curious about, because what surprises me is that we have a relatively small event in the industry, but it seems that an awful lot of people have an opinion that it should be a good event. What was your impression before you? Now you've been here like one day or half day, so what is your impression so far?
Oh, I asked people before what they thought of it, and they said it's an event that's worth coming to. So far that seems to be true, yeah.
Fantastic. Listen, I am very pleased that you're here, and I'm very grateful that we were allowed to honor you as part of a little exclusive group of people. So thank you, sir.
Thank you.